Alright guys, that time of the week again, and we're back with some more Championship transfer rumours. Loads to go over today, both in terms of player movement and in terms of managerial news as well. As always, I want to hear from you guys in the comments down below. Plenty of moving plates in the Championship right now. Have to give a massive congratulations to Oxford as well for winning the League One playoff final. Can't wait to have them in the Championship next season. Josh Murphy coming up clutch for them in the playoff final against Bolton. Two really well taken goals. And yeah, what a story that is. Obviously, we've got the Championship playoff final to look forward to as well. That's coming up at the weekend. The preview will be out on the channel shortly. But today's focus will be on the transfer rumours. And before we do get into those rumours, let's first of all go over some managerial news. Plymouth Argyle fans, I'd be interested to get your takes on Paul Heckingbottom in the comments down below. He is one of the managers being interviewed for the Plymouth job. We spoke on last time's video about Liam Senior turning down the opportunity. But a move for Heckingbottom is quite interesting. Definitely think that Plymouth could do a lot worse than Heckingbottom. That second season in the Championship can always be a little bit tricky after a promotion from League One, and someone with the amount of experience he does, like Heckingbottom, having managed over 260 games already in his career, I do think there's quite a bit of upside to that, especially, you know, coming off the back of quite untested manager previously in Ian Foster. Plymouth fans, I'd be keen to get your take on that down below. Norwich City, another club who are after a manager this summer. It is being reported that Steve Cooper was sounded out for the role, but he's not interested. Obviously, Cooper has been out of work since being let go by Nottingham Forest. Will be interesting to see where he lands next, whether or not he's holding out for a role in the Premier League, or he is willing to drop back down to the Championship at some stage. But by all accounts, Norwich won't be his next destination. Instead, it looks as if Pascal Janssen is the front runner for the Norwich job as of recording. He left AZ Alkmaar earlier this year, having previously spent 4 years with the Dutch club. Wouldn't be surprised if Norwich did look to the European market for this hiring. Norwich fans would be interested to get some takes on that one as well. Obviously, we've got Burnley dropping back down to the Championship now, so going to start covering them again, and Vincent Kompany reportedly being sounded out by Bayern Munich as a managerial candidate. Now, it's no secret that Bayern have already been turned down by a hell of a lot of managers, and so they're scraping the barrel, it seems, at this point to find a Thomas Tuchel replacement. But Kompany, over these last few weeks, has been linked around Europe with quite a few jobs. You would have thought that this season would have been a bit of a black mark against Kompany with how Burnley sort of failed to adapt to the Premier League, but still being linked with a lot of the top jobs. I have to admit, would be very surprised to see him in the Bayern Munich dugout next season though. Quickly worth touching on Kieran McKenna as well. Ipswich obviously in dreamland after promotion, but already getting into the realities of the Premier League, and Kieran McKenna now being linked with that Brighton job. Could imagine there being a few legs to that one, obviously with De Zerbi stepping aside at the end of the season. McKenna, the outstanding manager in the Championship this season, the age profile sort of football he plays as well. That's a lot of ticks for Brighton and what they tend to look for in a coach. Would be sad to see McKenna leaving Ipswich because I'm really excited to see what he can do with that squad in the Premier League, but if he was to move to Brighton, I couldn't blame him. Bit of movement within Stoke also worth reporting on. Their head of recruitment, Jared Dublin, has left his role at the club, which has got people talking. Already got people speculating that maybe Jimmy Dixon from Plymouth could be the next man to step into that role, obviously given his connection with Schumacher, but more on that I'm sure will come out over the next few days. Speaking of Stoke, we also saw them getting a deal over the line for Victor Johansson. We reported on this one last time, but it has since been confirmed. Really good bit of business by Stoke to get this deal done early, triggering the release clause within his contract at Rotherham, believed to be around about 900k. Fought off a lot of competition for that signing as well. Going forward, Stoke have finally got that goalkeeping position sorted on a long-term basis now. No more of these loan deals. Yeah, I'd be very happy with that as a Stoke fan. But enough of that now, guys. Let's hop into the transfer rumours. Very interested to see where Ollie Norwood lands this summer, having just been let go by Sheffield United. We're already seeing several Championship clubs being linked with the former Blades midfielder, with the likes of Hull, Sunderland and Watford all throwing their hat into the ring, and I'm sure there will be more clubs coming forward as interested over these next few days as well. It's an interesting one with Norwood and those clubs that he has been linked to. Not typically the sort of player that maybe Sunderland go after, obviously usually targeting those younger players, but over these past couple of seasons, they've not been against signing some older heads, especially on a free transfer and in what is a very young squad. You'd imagine slotting someone like Norwood in there, probably a good idea, certainly in terms of what he could bring to that squad off the pitch. But the links to Hull and Watford also quite interesting. Speaking of older heads, we're seeing Connor Cody being linked with a move back to the Championship. He's just sealed promotion back to the Premier League with Leicester City, but already been linked with a move back to the EFL. Stoke City, one of the clubs said to be interested in the Leicester defender, who could go out on loan this season. Cody did spend a lot of the season on the sidelines via injury, but came back into that side in the sort of back end of the season, and maybe that experience did play a role in them getting over the line in the end. Would imagine he is on a very lucrative contract at Leicester right now, so how much a Championship club would be prepared to pay of that if you are getting him on loan, I'm not so sure, but the link to Stoke is there at the moment, and it is an interesting one that I definitely could see having legs to it. On the back of the season Wouter Berg has just had, I think that every Stoke fan expected there to be interest in the midfielder this summer, and it appears as if that's just the case. Spurs, the latest side I've seen linked with the Stoke midfielder. Now, the Potters are in a good position to negotiate a price tag here, having only just signed him last summer. He signed him for just over $4 million, I believe, last summer, and he's down on the deal until the summer of 2027. You'd imagine the club would be looking to maybe triple their money from what they originally spent on him, especially if he was to move to the Premier League. Sheffield United, another side who I've seen floating around this one. As of recording, the future of Preston midfielder Alan Brown is still very much up in the air. Preston have presented him with a very lucrative contract to go ahead and stay at the club, but appears as if Brown is biding his time and waiting to see if he receives a more lucrative offer from elsewhere. We have seen links recently to the likes of Sheffield United and Coventry. There have even been some murmurings that maybe move to MLS could be on the cards as well, but it would seem as if Brown hasn't been formally presented with any offers that surpass what North End have offered him up until this point. So his future very much does remain in the balance at this stage. Now, if Alan Brown is to leave Preston this summer, it makes sense that North End are looking to bolster our midfield options, and we've recently been linked with Bristol City's Joe Williams. Williams is out of contract at Ashton Gate at the end of the season. He has been offered a new deal by Bristol City, but crucially is yet to sign it, so we'll also be considering his options for the future. Definitely not a like-for-like replacement for Brown. You'd probably say Williams is more in the mould of maybe a Ledson or a McCann, something like that. Very solid Championship player though, can see why North End would be looking around this sort of deal, especially if he is to be available on a free transfer. Now, I think every North End fan knew that it was going to take a bit of a long shot to get Liam Millar back for next season, and we're already seeing some of the Championship big dogs being interested in the Canadian winger. Reportedly, the likes of Burnley, Sheffield United and Sunderland all interested in Millar. Listen, he's coming off the back of a fantastic loan spell with North End, 5 goals and 5 assists. By far, probably our most exciting player to watch this season. Certainly someone who can get you up and out of your seat, and when he is on it, definitely capable of being a top tier Championship winger, especially if he does get that consistency added into his game. Could see why all of those clubs are interested, with those sort of teams being in the market for him. Be very surprised if he ended back up at North End next season, which is a shame. Just seen Norwich City releasing their retained list for the season, and I'd imagine there's going to be quite a lot of interest in the players that they've just let go. Sam McCallum, Giannoulis, Ben Gibson and Danny Bart all available on free transfers this summer. McCallum especially, well, I'm quite surprised that it's been let go in the end. 29 Championship appearances under his belt this season, still at a good age where he can improve as well at 23. I'm expecting quite a few Championship clubs to be sniffing around him. A number of their bigger stars could also depart this summer, with them failing to get promoted back to the Premier League. We're currently seeing Leeds United being linked with a move for Josh Sargent, this on the condition that they win that game at Wembley and are promoted back to the Premier League. It's an interesting one, obviously worth pointing out that Daniel Farke did sign Sargent previously when he was the Norwich boss. I think signed for around 8 million in the end. Originally, I think Sargent did struggle to adapt to Premier League football. He only got 2 goals for Norwich that season. They signed him in the Prem, but these 2 years back down in the Championship, I think have done him the world of good. And if he was to return to the Premier League now, I think he'd be substantially better than that debut year with Norwich. Worth pointing out, he is under contract until 2028, and you'd imagine the Canaries would demand quite a sizable chunk of change to cash in on him this summer. Another Norwich player who is going to attract a hell of a lot of interest this summer is Johnny Rowe. Coming off the back of a breakthrough season in the Championship, we're already seeing a number of Premier League clubs being linked with the Norwich winger, the latest of which being Wolves, and definitely a side I could see being in for a player like Rowe. Wolves love a tricky winger, don't they? He is under contract with the Canaries until the summer of 2025, but I do think Norwich would do quite well to keep hold of him this summer with the amount of clubs I'm expecting to be interested. 12 goals and 2 assists for the winger this season, but that only really paints half a picture. Such an explosive player, and at just 21 years old as well, you can understand why so many sides are in the market for a player like that. We saw the Hull owner doing a Q&A last week, and quite a few interesting nuggets came out of that, one of which relating to Liam Delap, where the Hull owner admitted it's 50-50 whether the Tigers get him back for next season. Already been reported that Man City are willing to sell him to the highest bidder this summer, with the Premier League champions looking for a fee of around £10 million. Hull absolutely going to be interested, but whether or not they'd be willing to go that high for Delap, it remains to be seen. The other day we also saw Derby County releasing their retained list for the season, and a few interesting talking points coming out of that, I think. Conor Hourihane leaving the club, obviously a big one. He has been linked with a return to Barnsley, potentially in a player coaching sort of role. Very interested to see where Joe Wildsmith ends up as well ahead of next season. He's just been let go by Derby, coming off the back of a Golden Glove winning season, played a key role in their promotion in the end. Very interested to see where he lands next. Tottenham youngster Will Yankshire is being linked with a loan move to the Championship, with Middlesbrough said to be among the clubs interested, coming off the back of a really prolific campaign in the Premier League too. The striker scored 23 goals for Tottenham's under-21s this season, and seems like a loan move out to the EFL will be naturally the next stage of his development. Over the years, Middlesbrough have played the loan market fairly well. I'd imagine there'll be a few Championship clubs that are sniffing around this deal. Well guys, that will wrap it up for today's video. Thank you very much for tuning in. As always, if you've seen anything else that we've not mentioned in today's video, make sure to get it in the comments down below. Other than that though guys, thank you very much for tuning in, and I'll see you all in the next one.